Okay, all right. Okay, it's 5:30. We're gonna go ahead and get started. Roll call. At-large Cummins.
Here.
At-large Poshton.
Here.
Ward 1 Welker.
Present.
Ward 2 Helm.
Yes.
Ward 3 Johnston.
Here.
They stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. That's the next one. All right, next item is agenda additions approval. I think Ryan has an.
Yeah, if we could, I'd like to add a discussion item as number 7 under city business. And that has to do with, you may have seen some examples of those orange directional signs for downtown businesses. We got a quote back that was too late for the agenda that is approximately or roughly $4,400. And I'd like to try to save 2 weeks on ordering them. So if we had your consensus to go ahead now, and if you could approve it then in 2 weeks, I appreciate it. So that's what I wanted to bring up when we get there.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the agenda with that addition?
Motion.
Second.
Okay. Motion by Cummins, seconded by Helm.
Cummins.
Yes.
Poshton.
Yes.
Welker.
Yes.
Helm.
Yes.
Johnston.
Yes.
Okay, this takes us to the communication portion of the meeting.
I just want to make a presentation. I think I had told the council that, I don't know the exact date. Chuck, what was the exact date?
Good Friday.
Oh, it was Good Friday. Officer Ada had gone to assist somebody with the medical, and he used the defib and he saved her. So she wanted to be here tonight, but she doesn't feel strong enough to come to a council meeting. But I wanted to present Officer Ada with his Lexington. So come on up. Let's see, I don't know if we're going to color here. Okay, he's good. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes. Congratulations. Awesome. All right. Is there anyone else that would like to present to the council?
Larry Hodgson, 210 East 6th Street. First of all, I want to express appreciation to Mayor Gert for writing the proclamation for Teacher Appreciation Week. Also got something from Linda Beck for the Chamber of Commerce. And there's going to be in the full page in the Tipton Conservative this week. 5 school organizations have got their information in. 3 of the community organizations, Lions, Masons, and Rotary, will have information on this page. 25 local businesses help support, pay for this page. They'll have their ads in that. So it's going to be a very nice thing this week. And the proclamation will be in the paper as well.
Great.
So Tipton PTO is putting a lot of this on. And they've also got 12 local businesses have done coupons for the teachers. So they got those today. So they'll be participating in local businesses with coupons. So thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Is there anybody else before we move on to the next portion of the meeting? Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the proclamation for Teacher Appreciation Week. this will be the proclamation that will also be printed in the Tipton Conservative. So the City of Tipton Teacher Appreciation Proclamation, May 6th through May 10th. And it reads, whereas the teachers of Tipton are resilient, creative, strong, and dedicated to their students' academic achievement and success, and whereas the teachers of Tipton are committed and passionate about engaging students in dynamic and creative learning environments while caring for their social and emotional well-being. And whereas the teachers of Tipton believe in diversity by honoring and respecting our human differences, equity by removing barriers and providing support for students to achieve their greatest potential, and inclusion by ensuring each and every one belongs. And whereas the teachers of Tipton spend countless hours preparing lessons, creating positive and inclusive learning environments, evaluating progress, counseling and coaching, motivating and mentoring, leading and encouraging students. And whereas the teachers of Tipton open up the world to students and provide the tools for every student to achieve their best in school and in life. And whereas the teachers of Tipton make a difference in the lives of their students and families through their ability to teach, mentor, care for, and guide them. And whereas the teachers of Tipton play an important and vital role in developing and molding their lives of children in our community. And whereas our community recognizes and supports the teachers of Tipton in educating all children in our city. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the mayor of the City of Tipton proclaims May 6th, 2024 through May 10, 2024 as Teacher Appreciation Week. And be it further resolved that the mayor of the City of Tipton strongly encourages all members of our community to join in personally expressing appreciation to teachers in the Tipton Community School District for their dedication and devotion to their work. Presented the 6th day of May, 2024. Okay, Abby?
Just thanking Luke.
Oh, thank you, Luke. Yes, thank you, Luke. We have a teacher on our council here. All right. The next on the agenda is the consent agenda. And these are routine items that will be enacted by one motion without separate discussion unless a council member requests separate consideration. Approval of the council meeting minutes from April 22nd, 2024. Approval of the council meeting minutes April 29th, 2024. Approval of the development director's report April 2024. Approval of the liquor license renewal for Casey's. Approval for pay application number 2, Industrial Circuit Electrical Construction Project, Tri-City Electric Company of Iowa for $33,516. And lastly, approval of the claims register, which includes claims paid under the current purchase policy. Any of those items needs to be pulled out for separate discussion?
Did you need to add number 7?
That's on the
Oh,
city
it's in the
business.
business. Sorry,
Yeah.
my bad.
No, you're okay.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Okay. Motion by Cummins, seconded by Johnston.
Ashton,
Yes.
Welker,
Yes.
Helm,
Yes.
Johnston,
Yes.
Cummins.
Yeah.
Okay, under city business. First item is discussion and possible action concerning the Tipton Building structural examination of 509-511 Cedar Street as provided by Origin Design on April 16th of 2024. And Terry is here to lead the discussion.
Did everybody have a chance to look at the report? Yeah. So, yeah, I was there earlier, before, we went ahead and had, Origin go through the building. Nothing changed. We had Origin go through. There's some structural concerns, some big structural concerns. If you go ahead, we could go through this whole report, page for page, but I think the big thing we need to get down to is the, where is it at here? There's a right here, page, the pages are up in the top left-hand corner. We need to take a look at, under conclusions on page 6 of 16. High priority recommendations. And this is coming directly from Origin Design, the engineering firm. And what they're saying with this, the high priority recommendations is that roof needs to be supported immediately. It's to the point of collapse. Bob had gone ahead and put up some shoring. If you look at this page, I think it was the last page. in your handout, it shows where, number 4, it shows where Bob had gone ahead and put some shoring up already. That was done, I don't know when that was done, Bob, quite a few years ago. But that's, from talking to the engineer, that's the only thing that saved this roof so far from collapsing. It's gonna be a big expense, but it needs to be done. What he's saying is to go ahead and pretty much, put more shoring up all the way to the front of the building. To save that roof from actually collapsing, and that's just a temporary fix. That's not permanent. Under the next page, which would be page 7 of 16, it talks about the moderate priority recommendations. And what that's gonna be is a lot of, tuck pointing. The back of the building is getting pretty bad from water runoff. The roof has leaked for a long time, and it's gone ahead and leaked down the side of the building, and it's taken out all the mortar between all the block. And there are structural cracks. He also recommends on the other page here, in the back wall, which is facing the alley, it's bowed out roughly about 2 inches from end to end. So it's actually doing this. There was supposed to be wall ties in there, and I'm sure they were there at one time, but I think they're all rotted off. He's recommending wall ties be put back in there to hold that wall in. Those walls are technically, they're 16 inches thick, but they are bone. That's another big concern that he has. Let's see. He is, since we couldn't look at the whole building because there is plaster on the walls, there's plaster on the ceilings, except the 3rd floor. He did recommend going back again and doing a little demolition to get in and take a look and make sure there's proper bearing on everything else. He's also brought up maybe going ahead and having a scan of the building. And what that'll do is it'll scan the building and it'll get us a base point so that if something else does happen, we can go ahead and compare it to what we have right now. And which would be for structural purposes. Another thing he told me was all the vertical cracks are really not a concern. The concern is when you get horizontal cracks. That means your building's shifting. So, but the cracks do need to be fixed that are there. I mean, we've got some pretty decent sized cracks, one on the south side, which I think Bob had fixed some of the ones on the south side where the door is going outside from the 3rd floor.
Break on the window.
Yeah. And then he's got a pretty significant one on the north side also.
2.
But the thing is it's gonna take a lot of money to fix this roof. I mean, they gave a couple of options. The main thing is to get that beam in there first, but, I wrote those down, sorry, paperwork here. Okay. You know, a long-term solution to restore the roof structural integrity needs to be developed. He's got 3 possible solutions on page 5 of 16. One would be a complete roof system. So remove the roof, put a new one on there. The other one would be to replace the inverted king post trusses along grid line B, which is going to be on this page here.
I don't have that page in our
You don't have
packet.
this page?
Mm-mm.
I'm sorry. And then he just put down the other engineering solutions. I would say we need to get that roof supported immediately. That would be the first big hurdle so that it doesn't come down. Then I think we need to work with the property owner and get some plan together to go ahead and get some more engineering. You know, the owner would need to pay for the engineering for a fix. And, you know, I think some time would have to be given to get this done. I mean, once we get that shoring up, that's just temporary, but then we need to get this roof fixed. I don't want to see it come down. I don't think that'd be good. But that's pretty much what the report says. I would definitely, you know, go off of page, you know, 6 and 5 and 6, you know, and require him to go ahead and get this roof supported temporarily. I'm open for any other suggestions. Yeah, I don't think the building in itself is gonna come down from this report. I think if the roof goes, it's gonna, you know, smash into the second floor. There's, you know, I don't think it's gonna take the building down, in my opinion. I'm no structural engineer though either.
Is there potential damage risk to the adjoining buildings if the roof comes down or not because it's a floor taller?
It's hard to say. I mean, both the north and the south side, those buildings are only 2-story. You know,
And their walls in county.
yeah, I mean, worst case scenario, the upper walls of the building in question comes down and falls on the roofs of the other ones. That's gonna do some damage.
Barry, it's gonna be expensive. I mean, do we have a ballpark? Do you have a rough, you
don't-
thing, but just,
A lot, how about that? Yeah, I mean, that's a big roof. I mean, that building it's 45 foot, almost 46 foot wide by darn near 90 feet long. You know, the problem with the back of the building, you know, is the roof had leaked for so long that everything would rot on the back. You know, it's repaired to the point now where it's not leaking, but, you know, we couldn't, back at the back part of the building, it's like 14'6" tall. At the front of the building, it's darn near 20 feet tall, and that's on the inside. So all the water runs directly to the west. And with all those darn pigeons, I hate to say this, crapping all over it, you know, it ruined the gutters. It dissolved the gutters.
I put brand new double thick galvanized on that in 14 and it's rotted them.
So
That building didn't have gutters on it for 100 years, I think.
So what the water does, it rolls off the end, and rolls right down the brick, and just rots everything out. I mean, it's gonna cost quite a bit of money to even tuck point that building.
Yeah.
You know?
As a social center, was it never equal?
Mhm.
You'd never be able to draw rents off enough. It has to be a social structure.
I mean,
Rebuild.
what I would suggest is the owner go ahead and get some prices to fix that roof. And then he needs to, you know, when Bob says that the building's historical building, he needs to be applying for some historical grants, if it is a historical building. Something to get some grants coming in, because I don't know what Bob's financial situation is, but that's a lot of money to be going ahead and putting a roof on this building, but it has to be done.
I'm just recovering from 20 years of cancer. So,
So, I mean, I'm not advocating either way, it needs to be fixed.
and that roof does need to come off, was it? That roof has
the original membranes on it. That was the mop down membranes that are 4 inches thick. The old owners in the city allowed that to soak up like a sponge and then freeze. It took me 2 years to dry it out.
You know, some.
They had probably, you know, those 2x2 wash tubs. They had probably 30 of them up there. Every time it rained, they just dumped it out a window. And everybody in town knew it when I got hooked into that building. It was let get bad. Whether the city's responsible for that, I don't know.
What do you think, Doug?
No. Short answer,
No.
private owned property.
Buyer
Another-
beware.
What's that?
Buyer beware.
Yeah, unfortunately. And another consideration is listening to some of the comments, if that is true, that original roof has been worked on over the years. Somewhere in there is probably asbestos.
Yeah.
And some
Sure.
kind of coating, some kind of something, which is gonna
Nasty.
significantly add to the
Lead
cost.
paint too.
Yeah.
I think the lead paint's been painted over.
I would say that other side of that coin, Terry's point of saving a new roof is pretty critical. If it gets to the point where the building comes down, I think of 3 communities where buildings like that had to come down. There's been a lawsuit followed every one of them by somebody adjacent to it. So that's always a risk too, no matter how careful they are.
We have no idea what the price of a roof is going to cost us, correct?
No. I mean,
I'm an old roof.
it isn't just roofing. It's,
We tear out.
you gotta tear the whole thing off. And I'm not saying that the city needs to give me money. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying it needs to be fixed.
I'm an old roofer.
One way
These
or the
clear
other.
span trusses, was it new metal deck? New roof, new sheet metal. It's a big deal. Was it tearing off that kind of roof in a downtown area? They have to set up a vertical crane? Drop stuff a block away.
So what is the question to us? What do we need to do or not do or think?
I don't know if there is a real question. We do have a letter of violation out on the property yet.
Okay.
I think we need to go ahead and, for the public's best interest, we need to keep pursuing that. I mean, I think we do need to put deadlines. I think the owner needs, or Bob needs to go ahead and employ a engineer to figure out and get cost estimates on what this is gonna be cost to repair this roof. And whatever else he can do to either get grants, but it's gotta be fixed. And you're right, Doug's right, it's not the city's responsibility.
So for the sake of, oh, sorry, go ahead, Abby.
I'm just wondering, where are we at if Bob does not do this?
Well, we're gonna end up in court.
You'd have a few options, I think, in reading through the report too, doing some additional planning. Have Bob get an engineer to come in and put together a better plan. This wasn't really a plan, it was just for identifying what the issues are.
Correct.
So putting together a plan, getting estimates, what it might all cost. At any point, you can always explore grant opportunities or other ways to deal with it, but so I think having some kind of a time frame for the owner to bring to the city a plan. This is what I put together and what's being proposed, this is what it's gonna cost. I'm not quite sure I'm gonna do it. What's our next step? But as a first step, put a plan, so having a deadline for that. If we get to a point where the city is not comfortable that things are progressing like they should, then we end up filing a municipal infraction citation. In a case like this, a lot of those we file in magistrate's court, where we're looking for penalties or potentially spending money of $6,500 or less. Because this, and I'm not saying the city would want to do this, but one of the options you have in the municipal infraction code, chapter 364, is the court will, through the proceeding, order the property owner to do certain things. And then the court will say, if we ask them to, if the property owner doesn't, the city can. And then you assess it as a lien on the property. Now, I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say the cost of this roof may exceed the value of the building. Unless the building is really renovated otherwise too. So whether or not the city would want to, if the owner doesn't, says, you know what, I'm not doing it. I can't do it. I'm not putting words in his mouth, just for example. And the city says, well, this roof needs to happen. And you put a roof on it, it's $180,000, and you put that lien on the property. Probably not gonna get your $180,000 back. You're probably gonna get a building. So.
That we may or may not want.
Right, right. Now, there's obviously, and there's a lot of alternatives, none of them are necessarily great. And, when I read the report too, I think I made a comment in the email to Brian that some of the things I identify in this report, you're gonna find in maybe 80% of the downtown buildings in Tipton and Macokota and Monticello all over, unfortunately.
The theater's in worse shape than my building.
So,
I was in there, was it when 30 or 40 bricks blew off that building and went down into the courtyard of Todd's. If you look up, there's the whole top of the building, 3 foot of it, don't have any mortar in it. Well, the last time it was broke, was it the city or whoever owned it didn't do it right. They didn't put decking down. I know the guys that roofed it personally. They put a sheet of insulation board, they'd fall through if it wasn't for the insulation board. That theater's a wreck. Mine's 20 inches thick. You should have heard the bricklayers swear when they had to cut up that fire door.
So,
All the cracks are structurally located, was it in the chimneys? I believe that's how they built stress cracks into that, in that period. That was built by the masons.
So I guess we just need to know which way the city wants me to go with getting this taken care of. It's a big thing. I mean, like I said, first of all, I think we need to get some shoring up inside that building. I mean,
Walls in common, I do believe, was it the people on the south and the north would be partially responsible for that. They're using my building as a north and a south wall. Walls in common.
Did you say there's a citation right now? Oh,
not a citation, a letter of
a
violation.
letter of violation. And what is the letter of violation? Is it strictly for the roof?
Yes, yes. To get I'm sorry, it was to get a structural evaluation of the building.
And that went out when?
I think that might have went out in November.
So what's a realistic time frame to require a roof? If knowing that back in November, we were already investigating that.
Well, I think if the funds were there, you could go ahead and have it done. It would have been done by now. If that's what you're asking, yeah.
so for the sake of this meeting, can we just sort of establish a timeline on when we want Bob to get us, the city, a plan? Cost estimates and a plan? Or,
For the repair of the roof?
Yeah.
But
Or-
what about, I think the
With the
first
shoring,
thing needs to be
okay.
addressed is that shoring. We need a plan on that shoring to get that shoring done right away.
Okay.
I mean, that should be done right away.
a lot of times you'll see gradual steps in your plan. So based on what Terry's saying, with having even shoring completed within 30 days, having an engineer's report and recommendations within 60 days.
Rebricking wasn't, the bricks back then are bigger each dimension, length, width, and height. When I first moved here, I had an estimate done. A brick run starts at 100,000 bricks and takes months. Roofing, I don't know, getting the iron workers and somebody with a vertical crane, that'll have to be taken apart. They ain't gonna throw that down and shoot into a dumpster.
I guess,
This is a major.
I guess I'm not super worried about the brick right now. I'm worried about the roof. I mean, that's the high priority is the roof. If we gotta go back at a later date down the road here and deal with the brick, I think that's when we deal with the brick. I mean, I think it says within 2 years, it should start tuck pointing, I think is what this report says. But I think we really need to focus on the roof. I mean, that's the high danger right there. That needs to be done right away. You know, high priority recommendations, is what it says.
What are the liabilities to me? Was it, if those are walls in common for all that brickwork and tuck pointing?
Well, I'm not really in a position to give you legal advice on that issue. There's some factors that come into play, whether there's shared liability there. If the risk is really his roof caving in, that really isn't because of the common wall. That's because of the roof. Now, if the common wall is failing in a way that is kind of consistent with both buildings, neighboring buildings, then there might be some shared responsibility to deal with that. But to Terry's point, this sounds really like a roof. Structural support and roof membrane or roof covering, so.
And I think that's what we need to discuss is the roof. I mean, we need to stick with the
Well,
roof right now.
When you mentioned shoring and that being a temporary measure, those are kind of general. I mean, what does shoring mean in this case, and how much time would it be?
Putting the support wall that the Moose tore out to make that a skating rink. They took 90 foot of support wall out of that.
What it is, Brian, it's like putting a bearing wall up underneath there. Let's say these trusses are coming down like this. You put a bearing wall up in there. Over top of the bearing wall below it, and below that, it goes all the way down to the foundation, and you jack that roof up so that it isn't failing. And that's just temporary shoring, is what it's called. I might have a picture here. You didn't get all these in your packet, so let me just.
Well, we got the pictures. We just.
So
need that.
Yeah, so go to page 11 of 16. If you've got it.
Yeah.
The center picture says added shoring under ceiling beam supported grid B ceiling support for the inverted king post trusses. That wall needs to go all the way down to the front of the building to darn near the rear of the building or grid line 3. And what it is it supports the roof so that it doesn't keep doing this any more than what it is. So, you know, like the architect told me, with all that snow we had early this year, if this little short wall was not in there at this time, that roof would have been down. So that's why I'm saying we need to go ahead and get some temporary shoring in
And
there.
by temporary, how temporary is that?
It's, once they put a new roof on, you just take it out.
But I mean, how long will it last as that?
As long as it stays dry, that roof will last a long time. I mean, the shoring will last a
temporary.
long time, yeah. And these, if I remember correctly, were 2 by 10s, 2 by 8s.
And I also did multiple levels, was it where the weight's been spread well past your little marks.
So
In engineering, was it the weight comes down and it's spread further than the existing support line?
I
One
mean,
old roofer.
it's gonna cost some money
Not
to
an
put this,
engineer.
but it needs to be done. I mean, and there's a bearing wall directly underneath there also, there's a beam. And then under that, down the first floor, there's another beam, so it's gonna carry it down to the foundation, which you want.
On the first floor, that's a brick wall.
Yeah. So that's what the temporary shoring is, and they're calling it temporary because it's I don't want to say it isn't permanent, because we know that. But after you get the roof fixed, you just pull it out. You don't need it. Unless
Yeah,
an
clear span.
engineered design requires that to be there, which technically, if that's quite a span, that's 46-foot span, that's a big span all the way across there. So they're probably gonna need something there permanently, but this is just a temporary fix so it doesn't collapse.
Well,
So-
Doug, oh,
Go ahead, Brian.
well, Doug, at one point, we were talking about whether or not to see if an agreement is possible or to see if we have to continue on with some kind of enforcement. What, do you have any thoughts about one or the other?
Well, you know, I think the key first steps are, and this report does a good job, I think, of explaining what the shoring, I don't think you need another engineer to describe what the shoring needs are. I think that's kind of covered. So if that, I would think it would make sense to have a deadline, whether agreed upon or not. If you can agree, great. If not, the city council just need to say, we need the shoring done within a certain number of days. To me, it might seem to make sense to get that done before Bob would bring an engineer in, unless he needs further guidance on where to do the shoring. Because then the engineer could base his recommendations or hers on, you know, the roof based upon the shoring that's been done. And maybe say, you know, I think we can wait till fall to do the roof, or I think we can wait till spring to do the roof because the shoring will hold it up. But if there can be an agreement, great. If there can't, I think the council needs to say, you know, based on what we know from this report, we need shoring done within this many days. We need an engineer within so many days. And then I think after that is when you decide what you want to, not dictate, but what you want to request regarding the roof.
So Terry, what's a good reasonable number of days to get that done?
Get the shoring done? I think 30 days.
Okay. Do we just need to make a motion and go that way, or?
I'd say to avoid coming back, not that you can discuss this all the time, but I might suggest you build into this motion 30 days for the shoring and an engineer's report within 30 days thereafter or something like that.
I think
Is that reasonable? I would motion what he said.
30 days from the
Yeah,
shoring,
so-
and
I
then
think
another
they're saying
additional
was
30.
from those, W trusses that they put in on the back, on the bottom third of the building, was it, I think he said those were strong
Second
enough,
that
right?
Oh, this is it, so we all know what.
Yeah, this is the back here.
The structural, those W
Yeah. it was double
trusses
dip.
they put on the first, on the back, 40 feet or.
All right, just to make sure we're all on the same page with what the motion actually is. So the motion would be to require the shoring within 30 days with an additional 30 days for the engineer's report and plan. Is
I
that,
would object to that, I think I would need more than 30 days. And I mean, that building stood like that for 160 years. 20, was it, most of that was where it was in neglect from the owner, and the city was letting them do whatever the hell they wanted to, taking out a 90-foot of support wall without even a permit or an engineer or anybody.
well, I think we lean towards, I guess Terry's guidance here.
Yep.
Since he's
I would stick
our
with 30
building
days.
official and going to be the one to have to enforce it. And
I would stick with 30 days. I think that if leniency wants to be given on the engineer
report.
I don't think that there would be an issue pushing that out, but I think 30 days for the shoring needs to be set.
Terry, do we really need a secondary engineer? Or is this not really engineering per se? Or are we really talking about roofing engineer, let's get this replaced type of engineering?
All
I know
this,
that
all
sounds-
this is a structural analysis of the actual roof that's there right now and the walls and so forth.
Okay,
There is no repair here.
okay.
This is just temporary shoring, which the engineer we hired recommended. So we need an actual
But is there enough?
repair.
I guess my question is, does Bob need to get an engineer, or does he need to call a roofer and say, hey, I need a new roof?
He needs to get an engineer.
Okay,
So,
But is there enough information in this report? Because he has a copy of this, correct?
Yes.
Yes. So is there enough information in this report for him to give to an engineer to create a plan without a second inspection or?
No, they're probably gonna wanna come take a look at it. I mean, these inverted king post trusses are bowed so bad. Some of them are bowed out of whack 2 feet. They're going literally like this here. That's how they fail.
Okay, would it be anything if we gave him like 60 days and 90 days? 60 days to get it fixed, 90 days to have the engineer, would that be that much of a factor? I mean, 30 to 60, give him a little bit
We're not gonna have
extra.
any snow load.
We're not gonna have
I
snow
hope.
load,
I
yeah.
hope, but,
But I'm
I
saying,
mean, that's-
30 days is pretty short notice to get that done, I agree. But I mean, 60 and 90, would that work?
it would work, yeah, but, again, I mean,
It doesn't need to be done, I agree.
and I don't want to sound bad, but like Abby said, the letter was sent back in
That's where I was gonna,
November.
where I was just gonna say. I agree,
I
30
mean, I
days
don't
sounds
wanna-
short, but it's not
Mhm.
short because,
Yeah.
no disrespect, but you've
Yeah.
known for a while. It's not like it's a new thing that just appeared.
Lenience has already sort of been given.
Like historical funding, was it trying to get it in 30 or 60 days? That's a laughable joke. And that's what that building's gonna take. It was built as a social center. Was it for,
Well, what we've discussed right now is just to go ahead and temporarily shore up that roof. And then to go ahead and get your engineering, which then you're gonna be able to figure out what a cost is gonna be. And we haven't even put a deadline on when it has to be done yet. You see what I'm
well,
saying?
T&K
If
work?
you're working on getting some type of funding or some historical grants or something like that, I think as long as that roof is shored up, that I think council might say, you know, we might be able to give you a little bit more time to get this taken care of.
Right.
It's just that we want to,
T&K Roofing that I worked for, was that they had an in-house architect engineer and they worked with, was it, now like that, I'd have to have probably a demolition company come in with that vertical crane and lift it all off. Lift everything back in due to its location in the highway, back alley.
Right now, we're just worried about the shoring. That's all we're worried
Yeah, let's
about
just
right
stick to the shoring plan for
That's
right
all
now.
bring in
Right
the
now.
engineering, I would say.
There's still a motion on the table.
Right, there is.
now. I'll second that.
So yes, what? Repeat. Yes, so the motion was to, for a plan of shoring within 30 days and engineering plan within 60 days was the motion.
That all sounds a little short to me. You can't even get a contractor to come out on an estimate.
Was there a second? Was there a first?
Yeah, Mike
So-
said.
Walker first and
And then,
Cummins second.
yeah. So is that the motion we're sticking with? Okay, so motion by Walker, seconded by Cummins.
Welker,
Yes.
Helm, Johnston,
Yes.
Cummins,
Yeah.
Bastian.
Yes.
Okay, all right, so moving on then to the next item under city business is resolution number 050624C. Resolution approving the payment to Sheets Design Build for the James Kennedy Family Aquatic Center renovation project, as set forth in pay application number 9. Doug?
As I am about to exit this meeting, I really think that 30-day notice is unfair. And I would like a transcript of this recording printed into text. Y'all have a great day.
On this resolution, to be clear, I've never looked at pay application number 9, but I have gone through the email history related to this. At one point, the engineer actually recommended this be approved a long time ago. And I think because of the other problems, or because of problems at the aquatic center, it kind of got put on hold. My take now is from all the different engineering and inspections of the building, there's been a determination that the problems aren't really tied to what Sheets did. The problems are tied to engineering design and other issues. And over the last couple of years, Sheets really hasn't been pushing hard, but his subcontractor under Sheets reaches out once in a while. Like, are we gonna get paid or are we not gonna get paid? So in looking at those emails, I brought this up and talked to Brian and Melissa on and off, what we should do with this and look a little more closely at it. My understanding of where things are with the aquatic center and the issues that it's had seem to suggest that Sheets is probably entitled to be paid. He did agree, however, as noted in the resolution, he's owed about $27,000. He's agreed to accept $23,342 and not seek the $4,000 retainage as a way of resolving this. And so the language of the resolution, the draft resolution, if you would approve it tonight, the payment you'd be approving would be $23,342. And we'd add one little phrase that, subject to the release and satisfaction from Sheets Construction, that he's accepting that as payment.
That's your recommendation?
Yes.
Motion to approve. That's the recommendation.
Okay. Motion by Poston, seconded by Helm.
Helm,
Yes.
Johnston,
Yes.
Cummins,
Yes.
Poston,
Yes.
Welker.
Yes.
Okay, next item is discussion and possible action concerning updates on the 657A properties and similar properties of interest.
I don't know if you got my memo earlier, Brian.
Yeah, it's been laid out.
Awesome. I know the 657As, my partner Steve's been working on. In the end, right now, 3 of them for Dolan properties, the 3 addresses I provided, 54 Walnut Street, 302 West 5th, and 403 West 3rd. Mr. Dolan has been served. The contract seller of those properties is the Lubagine Revocable Trust. It took a little digging around to actually come up with kind of a contact there, but now we do have a good contact. We've been in touch with her lawyer. He was out of the office for a bit, but I did communicate with him again today. He is going to accept service of the 657A petitions on the behalf of the trust. So that'll all be, everybody will be served, and the next step would be probably a pretrial conference. 105 Mulberry is Kisner's property, and that he's been served, and that is set for a trial setting conference on May 14th. That really doesn't involve anybody from the city. It just involves city attorney and the defendant to pick a date for that trial. The other Tholen property, 801 Locust, I think had been occupied. I think it's now not currently occupied, which in theory opens the door after the passage of time to that being also a 657A candidate. What we had started doing on that property, we have judgments against Mr. Tholen for some municipal infraction matters. And we took steps to execute against that property, which means that we would be going to the clerk would go to the sheriff, and we'd have schedule it for sheriff sale. And it either gets sold and the city gets paid, generates enough money, or Mr. Tholen doesn't want it sold, so he pays us what he owes, and it doesn't get sold. If it gets sold and it brings in more than we're owed, then he would get the rest, or the contract seller would get the rest. I can't really explain why, but the clerk here has resisted our ability to do this, saying that, and basically saying you can't execute when your judgment is resulting from a municipal infraction citation. We do it in other counties in this judicial district. It's not something we do a lot, but we do it. And I know my assistant has talked to the deputy clerk, or not the head clerk, but another deputy in the office. And when we asked them for some guidance, why is it that we can't do this? I think the response Michelle got was, well, you're the lawyer, figure it out.
Nice.
And my response was, well, I am the lawyer and I figured it out and we can do it. And so we kind of were hitting our head against the wall on that. But, we can keep going down that road, or I think the better course of action would I think we proceed with 657As because we've already got them filed. We've already got most people served, and we'll have acceptance soon. The trustee of this trust has agreed to meet with us and look for a resolution of all of this. My take is most of these properties aren't worth much. I don't know that the contract seller is going to want them back. because they had started contract forfeiture proceedings. If they get them back, then they've got to bring them to code. So odds are, they probably aren't going to want to do that. The city can't force a contract seller to forfeit contracts. She can just issue quick claim deeds and walk away. I've seen that happen. So a number of things are possible. I don't know until we have a conference call. The trustee lives in Wisconsin now. So the idea is next week we'll have a conference call. The goal would be to get a feel for what she is thinking, they are thinking. It might be a case where, the city, with 657As, keep in mind, if we're successful, you now own those properties and the other liens are wiped out. Another way to get there is having the contract seller assign her rights in the contracts to the city, and then the city forfeits the contracts, and that wipes away liens too. So need to get a feel for what she's thinking. Maybe we stay at full speed on the 657As, and they say, we're not even gonna resist. So we've been served, the owner's been served, you just proceed. And we can take title of those that way. Maybe then the other properties that haven't quite qualified for 657A because they haven't been vacant long enough, maybe those are ones that she would assign to the city. And then you step into the trust shoes, and now you're the contract seller and can, forfeit the contract or take other action under the contract. And you don't have to do any of that, but that would be one way or a couple ways of potentially gaining control of these properties to sell for renovation, demolish, whatever you might deem appropriate. I think it sounds to me, from my memory, a couple of the Poland properties that are under these contracts aren't necessarily to that condition where they need to be demolished, but it sounds like they all need something. And some of them are beyond probably repair. So that's the scoop on those. Questions about anything of those specifically, or any guidance? Is the council open to, if something reasonable can be worked out with the trust, taking ownership of as many or most of those problem properties as you can?
I think that was kind of our discussion originally, was to just get them cleaned up and then figure out what having, obviously there's, I think, some that we know has to come down. 801 Locust Street is now placarded, so it can't be occupied. And it will be, I think that's one, there's a couple of them that, Terry has already said for our previous discussion that would be demolished because they're not. But there are some that can be.
Talking about as far as numbers of units.
8.
Number of
Properties?
Yes, there was
7 or 8.
I think 12 or 13 overall properties. Some of them have more than one unit in them.
Correct.
Sorry for the.
But not all of them have violations out. There are some of them that are.
Correct.
Right.
But the ones that are bad are bad.
Might be,
They're real bad.
So-
might be as many as 7, right, that are in the very bad category.
How many of them are gonna be a money pit? Where if we did like Doug says, and we end up owning these things, how much is it gonna cost us to tear them down? How much is it, or fix them up and try and get something out of them? If they're not habitable, then why do we want them? And it's just, why do we want them just in the general?
Well, we don't. I think that.
We're not in the real estate business.
No.
No.
I don't think we are.
We want to,
They're nuisance property, basically.
they're bringing the values down and down.
I don't
You know,
disagree.
And they need to come down, and if you could go ahead and tear them down and sell the lot.
What's it cost to tear a house down? Roughly.
Some are pretty small. Would the one up on Cedar Street cost tear down?
That was a bigger one.
Yeah,
That was quite a bit.
Lynch had about what?
Jason, you're in the business.
I would say 10 to 15, but Lynch tore it down on itself. So I can't put a number on that. But
Yeah,
I would
well,
think 10 to
one of the
15.
options we were looking at was to find somebody on the condition that they would demolish it.
Right.
Or that
Right.
they would rehab it.
That would be part of the sort of the selling agreement
Yeah.
from the city, is that they would be responsible to tear it down or to repair it based on the building code.
Once you own it, you have the ability then to negotiate that.
Mhm.
If you choose not to own it, but yet want to take care of the problem, then it goes back to our conversation with Bob a minute ago that we could go to court, get an order telling Mr. Tholen demolish that property. And if he doesn't, then we can hire somebody to go do it, and put a lien on the property. So you're still spending the money.
And we're back to owning it again, pretty much.
Maybe, yeah, you're losing some control and, yeah. So It's,
I think our best bet is to get the properties when.
We were trying to find a way to do it where the liens go away,
yeah,
where
and
it's most streamlined.
657A and or forfeiting a contract both wipe out the liens.
Yeah.
So either one of those.
Maybe the council would authorize doing the path of least resistance in either case, depending on how the staff and you decide to go.
And obviously, until I have the conversation with the trust, I don't know exactly what they're thinking. But my gut tells me that these are not assets that they have much interest in.
Yeah, I would
And
agree
they
with
do pose some liability to them as well. So there are really two options, are either just sign them over to Mr. Tholen or sign them over to the city. And so we might figure out.
I
a way
would
to
say, just whatever you feel best,
Yeah.
go with your feelings. You're
Yeah.
good.
Say, like, and I haven't seen all the properties, I've seen pictures, but if everybody's on the same page that something needs to happen, then I think that gives me enough direction. If you're all comfortable that we do need to do something,
Yes.
Yes.
and odds are pretty significant the property owner's not gonna do that something from his track record.
You say he's in our best interest.
Okay.
And I don't think the trust, the person that's in charge of the trust will do anything with it either.
No, it doesn't make sense.
Mm-mm.
Are you okay with that, or do you need a motion of some
No,
kind?
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
I'll keep everybody informed. My memory, I think we've been in court a number of times. I don't think he's ever shown up, right?
No.
So the likelihood of follow through is pretty slim.
Right now, we're at 5 properties, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
Because you're putting 801 back on the board.
Well,
No,
801
not yet.
still can't.
Not quite, okay.
We still can't.
Okay. Okay.
We could do the 801 would be in play with the contract assignment if we go that route.
Okay.
Otherwise, we have to wait 135 days from when it went vacant on 657A. Good enough?
Is everybody okay with that discussion? Okay. All right, then next item is resolution number 050624A. Resolution adopting a policy for the investment of public funds. That's Melissa's.
This is one of our requirements from our auditors. A couple years ago, they requested and helped us develop this investment policy that we've had, and that's been passed. But they do ask that we bring it back every 2 years to have it just repassed. Nothing has changed in this policy since it was passed 2 years ago, but it does just outline the requirements and goes along with the depository resolution that we do each January. So they kind of sing together. So this is just requesting to pass this again to go along with our audit. Any more questions?
Do we do this a lot?
Every 2 years?
No, I mean, invest money?
Yep. So
do
we
like
have,
weekend funds? I mean, do we do that?
so we invest into CDs. We have the investment policy that we passed, it would have been in January, February, that outlined where we can invest our CDs in, which is our local banks, and then IPATE. So when we do have a CD investment come up, I prepare a standard letter that goes out to all banks and gives everyone the same opportunity to provide a bid of what the rate would be, and then they return it to me, and I provide that response to Brian for official approval. I give him my recommendation, and then we invest it. So usually they're about for 12-month terms. We have one that was 14, but for the most part, they're 12-month terms. So in those, you'll get treasurer's reports that come through, and that is what that CD report shows, is where our investments are, when they were renewed, and what's due, and what the rates are. So you can kind of see on those reports. So actually, that'll be, those reports come out on the second meeting of the month, so you'll see that at our next meeting.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions for Melissa? If not,
Second.
okay, motion by Cummins, seconded by Johnston.
Cummins?
Yes.
Ashton?
Yes.
Welker?
Yes.
Helm?
Yes.
Johnston?
Yes.
All right, number 5 on the agenda, resolution number 050624B is resolution setting the time and place for a public hearing for the purpose of soliciting written and oral comments on the city's city's proposed fiscal year 2023-2024 budget amendment.
This is asking for the public hearing to be at your next meeting, which will be the 20th. So what this budget amendment doing, that is for our current budget. What the auditor requirement is if you would go over or think that you're going to go over your function, you need to have a budget amendment done prior to going over. Sometimes that works, but there are emergencies where it comes up, when, you aren't able to do that. And that's what the auditors look for. But what this has done is I have gone through and looked at where maybe we're getting a little bit close to being expended 100%, or maybe we have something coming up. I've talked to department heads too, and they've kind of given me ideas of things that maybe have coming up that have changed since the last time we did the initial budget, way back when. So that's what I've gone here. Some of the major things that happened in this budget amendment was we received the revenue for the industrial feeder project, which we didn't know about when we did the budget. So we accounted for that as well as the expenses for that too. And then we had some grant proceeds that have come in for additional revenue and insurance reimbursements. And then major expenses was the industrial feeder project. We had the play structure that just happened out of the aquatic center, which we received a grant for, but we still had to account for those expenses. And then the mechanical room repairs. So those are the major ones. There was other ones, but those are the major ones. So you'll see that published on Wednesday's newspaper, but then this will set the hearing for the official public hearing on the 20th.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Motion by Cummins, seconded by Walker.
Posturing.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Helm.
Yes.
Johnston.
Yes.
Cummins.
Yes.
Okay, resolution number 050624D, resolution awarding competitive quote for the Tipton Terminal Rehabilitation Project 2024.
Yes, we had one quote come in from Lynch Plumbing. It was $92,270, which was $70 over the consultant's estimate. Again, this is construction only. It doesn't include McClure's engineering cost, but the entire project, both Lynch and McClure, is covered 85% by a state of Iowa aviation, or GAVI grant is what they call it. So this is a case where we have a building that really needs a lot of work done, and fortunately we were able to get a grant that pays for most of it.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
A motion by Posturing, seconded by Cummins.
Welker.
Yes.
Helm.
Yes.
Johnston.
Yes.
Cummins. Posturing.
Yes.
Okay, the last item under city business is the addition that Brian mentioned earlier in the meeting about the directional signs for the street construction.
You've probably all seen examples of those orange signs that are in large part meant to be put in the same area as the road closed signs on the side streets and mainly there. And it gives the public an indication of which business goes in which direction. That's part of the effort to try to help businesses stay in business or keep operating to the extent possible. We had two choices of thickness. We chose the one that we thought would hold up better in the wind. The estimated cost is $4,400. I don't know exactly how many signs we'll end up with. That's why it's an approximation. This is discussion only. We didn't get it on the agenda. What we're hoping for is consensus to go ahead and get them ordered and then bring it back next time for final approval or official approval.
I'd say, go ahead and get them ordered.
Yeah.
Whatever we can do to help out, we need downtown.
Yeah.
Okay,
Agreed.
thank you.
Okay. So that takes care of city business. Next item on the agenda is just reports from department heads. Anybody? No? Oh, you look like you had something. No, Steve?
I can say that we're filling potholes.
Thanks.
Personally, I did that today, so I was questioned a little bit why I was doing that, and I said I'm directed to do that. What our intent is, of course, to get as many as we can filled. We did get a donation from Bill at the DOT, Bill Cranberry. He said, you gotta try this stuff. It's a lot better than cold mix, and it really is nice to work with. What we're gonna do is fill as many potholes as we can, then come back with our machine, our hot patch machine, in June when it works better, when I have a couple of guys. Right now they're flushing hydrants, but come back with that and then seal those over. And that really works, that machine, as you guys have seen, that really works. So that's the best news I can bring to the table tonight.
SWIC is getting close to getting out their boring. They're out there by the dentist office, and they are going to be going towards Cedar Poly here yet this week, so they should be done with all the boring. And that's just setting up a couple pieces of equipment, and they'll be pulling wire in after that.
I just had a quick note. I sent a couple emails. We did receive a grant from the Governor's Traffic Safety Bureau. This year we have about $26,000 to spend on the impaired driving. So when people ask us if we have anything better to do, we pull them over. Nope, we have $26,000 of local time to be spending.
For those nuisance ordinances. Yes, I know. Thank you for your Facebook post today. I thought it was great.
Well, if you've been following the Dear Dog saga, KCRG picked it up. They shared it a couple times. So now people.com has requested if they want to share it. I don't know where that's going.
It's already on their site.
Oh, okay.
Really?
Wow.
Wow.
I told them to make sure that it was Tipton, Iowa, not Indiana.
Indiana,
Right,
right.
right. Is that okay? And see where it goes.
Okay. Brian, do you have anything else? Melissa? Do you have nothing else? Okay, council members, anything? No? Okay. If nobody has anything else, then I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Motion by Helm, seconded by Poston.
Helm,
Yes.
Johnston,
Yes.
Cummins, Poston,
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
All right, meeting adjourned.